Hey everyone, welcome back to another Roblox Studio tutorial. Today we're going to be making a car spawner system similar to the one in Brookhaven. And the car will be spawned on the server so that everyone in the game can see it, not just a player who clicked the button. This is a great feature for role-playing games or any game where you want a shared car in the game world. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is create the button that will allow the player to spawn their car. We'll place it on the player's screen using a screen GUI. To do this, go to Starter GUI, click the plus button, and select Screen GUI. Rename it to Car Spawn GUI. Inside the Screen GUI, we'll add a text button that the player will click to spawn their car. We'll name this Car Button. Let's change the text on the button to Spawn Car and adjust its size and position to fit nicely on the screen. So I'm going to select the car button, scroll down until I find the text field, the text property, and I'm going to say Spawn Car. I'm going to find its size property, and right now it's using the offset property. We want it to use the scale, so I'm going to say 0.20, 0.20, and once it's using the scale property, you can then move it around and adjust its size, and it will continue to use the scale property. I want to round the button, so I'm going to add in a UI corner, and this will create a nice rounding effect on the corners of our button. I want to change the background color to be red. I want to change the font face to be Fredoka 1. I want to scale the text up to be, we'll do 40, and text color I'm going to do white. And text stroke transparency I'm going to turn down to 0 so there is an outline on our letters. And there we go, I'm happy with that button. Now that we have our button ready, let's move on to setting up the car that will be spawned. Next, we need a car model to spawn. You can either create your own car or find a car model in the toolbox. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to search car, and I'm just going to grab this Jeep right here. Click it to put it in the workspace, and once you have your car, place it inside of replicated storage. This way the server will be able to access and spawn the car when the player clicks the button. So click your car, drag it into the replicated storage, and I am going to rename mine to be car. With our car model now in replicated storage, we're ready to move on to the scripting part. Because we want the car to be spawned on the server and not just on the client side, we need to use a remote event. This will allow us to send a message from the client when the player clicks a button to the server, which will then handle the car spawning globally. So let's add a remote event to replicated storage. Click the plus button, search for remote event, select it, and I am going to rename mine to be car spawn event. This remote event will act as a bridge between the client and the server. The client will trigger it when the player clicks a button, and the server will listen to it and spawn the car. Now that the remote event is set up, we need to create a local script inside the button to trigger the event when the player clicks it. This script will send a request to the server to spawn the car. So let's add a local script inside of the car button. I am going to rename mine to be spawn car script, and then let's write some code. So we need to grab some variables like our replicated storage. We need to grab our spawn button, and we need to grab that remote event for spawning the car. We then need a function to request the server to spawn the car. We then want to get the player's current position, and let's actually get a reference to our player's service. And then we simply just want to fire the remote event to the server and we want to send the player's position with that event. So we will say car spawn event fire server, and then we pass through our character's primary part's position. And that is it for the function. We simply need to connect the function with a mouse button one click. And we will pass through the request car spawn function. So let's break down what's happening here. First, we set up a reference to the car spawn event in replicated storage, and when the player clicks the spawn car button, the request car spawn function gets triggered. This function sends the player's current position to the server using the remote event. We'll now handle the actual car spawning on the server. Now we need to write a server-side script that listens for the remote event and spawns the car for everyone to see. Let's create a script inside of server script service. And I am going to rename it to be car spawner script. We need to grab some variables like replicated storage. We want to grab our car model, and then we want to grab our car spawn event. We then need a function to spawn the car on the server. And remember, we are passing through a player automatically that is built into Roblox, but we're also passing in the spawn position, which is the position of the player. Inside of this, we want to have a check to see if the player already has a car, and if he does, we will not run this function. If you want to be able to spawn in multiple cars, then ignore this if statement I'm about to write, and it should work with multiple cars. But we want to just limit it to just one existing car, so we will say if workspace find first child, and after that print statement, we just want to return, and this will return out of the function and won't run any of the logic below it. So now let's actually worry about spawning the car, and the first thing we need to do is clone the car model from replicated storage. We then want to set the car's position to the provided spawn position. And we want to provide an offset. That way we don't spawn the car right on top of our player. We will just say spawn position plus vector3.new, and we will do 10 studs to the right, and then 0 studs up and down, and 0 studs forward. And you can tweak this to however you want to spawn the car, but this, in my experience, is a pretty good value. We then need to parent the car clone to the workspace so it appears in the game. So we'll say car clone dot parent equals workspace, and we want to have a unique name, and we want it to match our structure that we set up here. So we need, say, car clone dot name equals player name, or player dot name dot dot apostrophe s car. We then want to connect the remote event to the spawn car function. So we simply say car spawn event dot on server event connect and pass through the spawn car function. So let's break down the server script. When the remote event is triggered by the client, this function runs on the server. It first checks if the player already has a car in the workspace. If the player doesn't have one, it clones the car model, positions it near the player, and then parents it to the workspace, making it visible to everyone in the game. Now it's time to test everything out. When you click the button in the game, it should send the request to the server to spawn the car, and since it's handled server side, all players in the game will be able to see the car when it spawns. So let's hit the play button, and then let's click the spawn car, and it says failed because no primary part has been set or the primary part no longer exists. So let's hit stop and let's go check out our car and replicated storage. And sure enough, no primary part has been set. So I'm going to set it to be the drive seat. Let's hit play and test this out again. So if I hit spawn car, there we go. There is our car. We can jump in it and we can start driving around. And everything's working great. If I hit spawn car again, we get car already spawned for this player. And out of curiosity, let's go to our spawn car spawner script and let's comment out this section and let's see if we can spawn in multiple cars. So there's one car, there's two cars, 3, 4, 5, and yeah, if you want multiple cars, then you can ignore this part of the script. If you just want to limit it to just one car, then include it in your script. And that's it. You've now created a car spawner system that works on the server, allowing everyone in the game to see the car when it spawns. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more game development tutorials. And let me know in the comments what you'd like to see. And as always, I will see you in the next one.